All right, hello everyone. This is Deborah Harlow from the Wells International Foundation team, and I am here with an amazing mother-daughter duo who recently attended the Successful Woman event in Paris, France. And Monique Wells, the founder of the WIF organization, really just had such a fabulous time connecting with them in Paris. And so we have asked them to join us here today and share a little bit about them and their experience and the journey and any wisdom that they would like to share with the community who would be considering attending the Successful Woman event in 2020 in Paris. So without further ado, if you lovely ladies wouldn't mind introducing who you are and telling us a little bit about yourselves.
Okay. So I'm Pat Long, and my most important and best role ever is that of being the mother of Lindsay Lee Long.
Oh, my mama heart beams on that.
And after that, I'm a real estate broker, so I own, a pretty nice real estate company in the state of Maryland. And so I'm married to a wonderful man for the last 35 years.
Ooh, congratulations.
So, we just live a really great life.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you.
I am Lindsay Lee Long, daughter of the illustrious Pat Long. I am an artist and educator. I am the founder of a nonprofit called Respect the Art. It is a nonprofit for art education, serving youth and families to provide resources for art and for youth that want to get into the art field, specifically in underserved communities. I am an all-around creative, and yeah, that's about me.
I love it. Well, clearly it is easy to see why Monique loved having both of you lovely ladies.
Lindsay lives in New York. I live in Maryland.
I also live in New York.
All right. Clear that up. East Coast. I love it. Well, art is a really big component in our household as well, and I do art therapy and art healing with children and women.
Nice.
Girls and women, and so you were speaking my language when you were saying the art therapy, so I love that you do that, so thank you. We're going to dive into a couple questions just to kind of get to know both of you a little bit better and what the experience was like for you and any insights that you can share. So I'm going to say, I'm looking at my questions here, which one would be the most fun to answer right now? Let's see. What did you discover at the event that you wish you had discovered sooner in life?
My answer to that isn't so much a specific discovery. I just appreciated so much like the different like things that each woman added to the conversation. And so like I felt really privileged to be able to be in a circle, because I was one of the youngest people there, or youngest women there, and just to have that kind of sister circle and to speak directly with women who have been where I am and could relate, to my journey professionally and also my journey personally. Just to have that right there, in front of me, to be able to like ask questions to people live and direct in a very safe space. Mm-hmm. I think that was so beneficial to me when it happened, and I would have loved for that to have happened, sooner in life.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think for me, like all of the women there were, very accomplished women, that have done amazing things. And often I think when in your career, when you've reached a certain point, sometimes I believe it's challenging to have people that you can really relate to on a real level. Like sometimes people think, oh, she's got, everything is just so wonderful and beautiful. And to be, like Lindsay said, to be in that safe environment where you can really be transparent and vulnerable, and to know that, just know within the core of you that you are well taken care of by this, like, it's like almost like a cocoon, like, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, talk about having an opportunity to just exhale. Was just, just a beautiful experience, and one I'm looking forward to having much more frequently.
I completely understand. Oh, I love that. I think one of the biggest challenges that women face is how to create a container of safety so that transparency and vulnerability can exist.
Yes.
So we can release what no longer serves us and receive what we're ready to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest challenges of the modern Western woman, who is having to do it all and do it all alone, and having to look like she's Instagram ready every second of every day. Mm-hmm. And to be able to just kind of strip that away in the container that you did, and to have that's beautiful. So I love that. And that's where the magic happens, when you're in that space, because then the realness comes to the surface. So, oh, I love that. So I have a question, and this one I've asked a handful of women before, and it's always fun to hear what comes up. So kind of thinking back to when you were a little girl, when you were young, did you have certain plans and goals for this stage of your life right now? And if so, what were they?
Wow. Yes. You want to go first?
No, you go.
Oh. I have always had big entrepreneurial goals for as long as I can remember. And though I have not met those big, huge goals that I made when I was younger, I feel like I'm very much on the right track. And it's interesting, just like getting older. I'm 30 now. And it's kind of like the fork in the road where, there's some people that are choosing like families and marriage and things like this. And it's like other people are focused on their career path. And it's just like to be in a place, I always wanted to be like in a place where I could be on my own journey while being supportive of like the journeys of everyone around me. So yeah, so I feel like my vision is pretty in line with who I am currently.
Everything you shared when you introduced yourself, I would say you're out there creating that. So that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And the illustrious mama, what would your answer be?
So I'm 60 now, and I believe that God has given us the opportunity to create our life. And I'm just appreciative of that. And although, and Lindsay will tell you, she grew up in a very untraditional household where I was, my husband was I guess for lack of a better term, like the primary parent. And I mean, to just have him take on that role so that I could excel in my career, the business that we have collectively built, and when I say collectively, I mean my husband and Lindsay and me, it's really like it's like a dream. Like what we've created has been just really cool. So I'm in a really good 60 place.
Love it. Well, I think you're lying. I don't think you're 60, but I'm gonna take that. I can do it working, and I want the secret recipe. Please share it. I love that. Is there any advice, if you think back, that you would give your younger self based on where you're at now today?
I would say, for me, just don't take things so seriously. I would tell my younger self to, just kind of ease up. It's going to be okay. Like you'll be able to do all of these things and not carry as much stress as I did over the years.
Amen to that. I'm down with that. Yes, more of that. And you, Lindsay?
What advice would I give my I would tell her, I don't know what I would tell her because she would just be like, whatever. Like, because I would be like, okay, all of this.
What is that, though? I'm totally confused.
Okay, no, things like everything's gonna make sense, in time. And it's just like, yeah, sure, you can say that, but you're from the future. I honestly do not know what I would tell my younger self. I can say though, I'm thankful for just the personality of my younger self, and what I was open to and what I said no to in my younger years. So I don't know. I was listening to something.
Yeah. Well, divine intervention can step in sometimes and guide us. So be grateful for that. Yeah. I was asked that question when I was interviewed recently for a chapter of a book that I'm writing, and you think about, okay, well, what's the thing that I would say? And I'm thinking about, okay, well, what would be the message I could give my daughter, who's 7, going on 27, who knows it all and all of that. And it just came out. It was trust your truth.
Yeah.
Because when you know your truth, you feel it in your gut, you feel it in your intuition, you feel it in your womb and your belly, and just trust that. Yeah. And the more that you can just trust your truth, there is no one that can knock you off the path that you're meant to be on. So trust your truth.
Yeah.
No matter what age you are, you can't really rock off that, right? You can't be like, whatever. It's like, okay, that's me. I'm trusting me. I'm the person who's in charge of that journey. So
yeah.
That one came up and I was like, I'm gonna stick with that one.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that one stuck with me for a long time. So I'm thinking on that one on a regular basis, every chapter of my life, right? Every decade as I'm progressing. Okay, trust my truth. What is it today? What have I released and what am I receiving and how am I showing up in the world? So that one works with all generations. I love it. So you were there at the event in Paris, and on the morning of day 2, there was a segment that talked about legacy and really embracing the idea of legacy. And this conversation point has come up before in an interview between Monique and I when we were talking about what does legacy mean. And I shared with her that, growing up, I grew up fairly poor, and legacy from my vantage point was what rich people did. When you're wealthy, you can pass on your legacy. You can pass that on to your children and the business and things like that. And it wasn't until I became a mom that I realized legacy is living a beautiful life so that I can ripple it forward by example and by deed. And that's the definition for me of how legacy evolved. And so it was interesting to have that conversation because each person has a definition of the literal meaning of legacy and then how it applies to them at this chapter of their life. So I am dying to know from both of you, what was that segment like for you on legacy and what inspired you as you were conversing with everybody in that circle?
It was very empowering. It was a very empowering morning. I mean, the whole time was very empowering, but that was especially empowering because everybody was very honest about, where they were and being able to say what they did know and what they would do, and also being honest about the things that they didn't know. So it really was a collective effort to kind of fill in the gaps of each woman that was there, to kind of fill in those like knowledge gaps and really like come up with a comprehensive and like holistic look at what legacy really is to each person, and how it can be built and how it can be sustained, beyond our lives.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, and the conversation too, for me, that was important, was the acknowledgement of legacy. Like my parents and several of the parents of the women that were there, it's not that our parents had an abundance of money, like financially, we're in a different place. Like I'm in a different place than my parents were in. And it was that legacy of love, that legacy of, teaching us how to care for others, how to uplift people and those kind of things. And then being able to couple that with a financial legacy piece, just kind of put everything together. And with the understanding that, like with me, I didn't grow up in a household where, we just didn't even talk about finances. When we talked about finances, it was because my mother had a term, we're having a financial crisis. So, so that was the extent of our financial conversations, and just understanding that just because you did not grow up knowing these things, that there are, you don't have to be ashamed that you didn't grow up knowing that. And now you're in a place where you can learn all of those things. And that was also something that was really beautiful about being there at the conference, because Monique had assembled like all of these resources, like people that could, just kind of walk you through, the financial piece and the wellness piece. And it was like every component that you could think of, she had those people there. And so, yeah, it was really powerful. That whole conversation about legacy and what that really means on every aspect. Just living healthy, choosing the foods we eat, and, how we're taking care of ourselves, all of that is part of legacy. So it just brought about a different awareness for me.
Oh, that is so beautiful. The gist of what I got from what both of you shared and what Monique shared is that when we kind of shift the paradigm of legacy, it's that we embody all aspects of it. It's the mind, it's the spirit, it's the soul, it's the heart, it's the finances, it's every aspect. And I love that you touched upon, Pat, that it doesn't matter if you weren't raised a certain way with it. So your conversations around money were around money crisis, right? So that's some negativity, that's some limiting, there's scarcity in that. That's kind of how I grew up as well. When the money talk happened, it wasn't a joyful thing. It was like, uh-oh, okay, what's coming? And as I grew up, I realized that I had carried that story with me almost like a family tradition, and that I couldn't have abundance, or money was not accessible, or that hard work was the only way to achieve success. And so there's that process again of, trust your truth. That wasn't my story. That was my parents' story. And it didn't mean that it was a bad thing that it was theirs. It's just, I'm going to have a different story. And abundance is accessible to me. And anytime I rise, it's incumbent upon me as a woman to reach to my left and my right, and we all rise. Yeah. So it's that aspect of like, that's how legacy could shift when we're willing to be mentored and guided and embody what we desire in the world. It definitely sounds like that conversation was present with all the guides that were there talking about every aspect.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. Yay. Love that. The world needs more of that. Oh, I love it. One other question for you. Since you were experiencing the event together as mother and daughter, and that was kind of the lens that you were looking through in addition to your own journey while you were there, do you think there would be any benefit to having another mother-daughter pair in the room? And would that have possibly influenced your experience in any way?
Well, there was another mother-daughter group in the room, and we had opportunity to hang out together, like after a session, and had the best time. And we've made a commitment to stay in contact. We're going to be getting together sometime in June, and so it was. Lindsay and I, whenever we're together, it's always going to be a great time. And to have, another mother-daughter, I mean, that was like icing on the cake. But we already have really great cake.
I do not question that. That is a truth that I can trust. Right there, I can tell that you're both a lot of fun. I love it. So it sounds like it was just an extra layer of goodness to be able to share with another mother-daughter.
Yeah, we had a great time.
We did.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Clearly, life is just so beautiful and we can find joy in the journey. So being able to be on any chapter and any space and just finding joy in it. So is there anything else that you would like to share about the experience or any wisdom that you'd like to pass on to anybody who's maybe considering going but is on the fence?
I would say don't be on the fence. So I do want to say one thing.
Yes.
So when I was, when Monique had sent me the information, so we met Monique in
2018,
in
fall 2018.
Yeah, so Lindsay and I were traveling. I was her plus one at a friend's wedding in Tuscany, and then we did, just some travel hops. And so one of the hops was in Paris, and that's where we met Monique because we took one of her walking tours. And so I had never heard about, her organization. And so when she sent me that information, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like really cool. And then the Paris riots started. And I was like, I don't know about this. So I was coming from a place of fear, and that's just not natural to me. And it was really great that, Monique was able to give me a more true perspective other than what I was seeing on, hearing on the news, seeing on TV. So I would say that life is short. There isn't any better time than now. And I'm just really happy that we did it. Initially, I hadn't even thought about Lindsay going, and then it just dawned on me, like, this is my travel buddy right here. And
So can I go?
Because if that thought didn't pop into your head, I think Lindsay would have been like, Mom.
yeah, exactly. And so it was, I would say, do not wait, don't hesitate, just do it.
Yeah, I agree. And like we had the benefit of having each other, but even if there are people that are traveling alone or being nervous about that, like once you get into that room, like Monique has done such an amazing job of just cultivating this environment of love. You immediately feel it. It's not like I didn't feel any like having to warm up like a normal.
It's like really divine order. It really is. It's like the way that how everyone just automatically gelled. I mean, it was really like we were just all meant to be there.
Yeah, it was very intentional, very purposeful. Everybody was on, though, you know, everybody brought their own opinions and information and life experiences. Everybody was on one accord, and I think the most important part was everybody was open. Everybody was open to learn. Everybody was open to receive. Everybody was open to give. There was no like that kind of like gatekeeper mentality where it's just like, I've done this and I don't want to talk about it. Like, this is me.
And
there
no
was
judgment.
no judgment. Nobody trying to like show off their status of like their various whatever. It's like it was so genuine and just real.
Everybody was a grown woman. Wow, that's refreshing. Okay, that's how we grown women. It's not that too much to ask. All right.
Yes,
it should be.
Absolutely.
I will remind people that from time to time. All right. The 7-year-old gets to do a little judgment. You are not 7. Check that at the door and be open. All right. Any last parting thoughts or wisdom or any words you would like to share? Because I could chat with you all night, but I know you got stuff to do. So anything that you would like to share?
Not that I can think.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being open to sharing this. I mean, the joy that beams from your faces together and the energy and the connection that you have is so refreshing. And may I get even a little bit of that with my own daughter. I will know that life is really beautifully blessed.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience and for sharing the stories with us now so that women who might be curious about going or wanting to know what the experience is like will be able to hear your wisdom and feel the warmth that's coming through the screen and know that it's time for them to go to the event in 2020 as well. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. And if anybody has questions, we'll post details down below and to learn about coming to the event in 2020 in Paris.